off track. Well, hello.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Comic Breakdown. Today we are talking with the infamous Benny from COMICSTORIAN, also MangaStorian. What else we got here? We got a whole list.
I'm going to launch an eighth one. So yeah, I got COMICSTORIAN, MangaStorian. COMICSTORIAN, we don't know what to call it. It's called COMICSTORIAN Full Story, but it's also called COMICSTORIAN Classic.
I saw that.
Yeah, which is just the way COMICSTORIAN used to be. We have that one. We have absolutely the podcast channel, Dungeons and Ales, where me and my buddies play D&D. That's the hardest thing to schedule. Everyone's like, why don't you do more of that? It's like, this is insane. We have our Gaming Lord channel. And then Benny Has a Problem. Benny Has a Problem is the new one where I just rant about things that don't fit into any of the other boxes.
Yeah, then you got what we got? We got this hot sauce is the Hatchet Jalapeno.
Yep, our hot sauce brand that we've come out with. I mean, we also have 2 Twitch channels we run.
Yep. You have 2 comic books in the works, scripting a web series, and 3 channel propositions that you got in the works, and in talks of running a production company.
Yeah. Oh, you looked at the whole tweet. Got it.
So you got a lot going on, man.
Sometimes too much, but I can't do all of it. At this point, I've structured out a team.
Yeah.
So I just go, this is what I want to do. You all figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do for the project. You guys figure out the other parts.
Well, I appreciate you making the time, man. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. You, COMICSTORIAN, Ernie. I've talked to both Rob and Ernie already. So talking to you is like collecting my last gym badge. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So it's like the big guys I've been able to get on the playing field, and it's nice to see that. Like I was telling you off screen, it's been 4 years. Just a couple days ago, we hit 4 years. We're about, I don't know, like 50 subscribers away from 50,000 right now.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And so it's been growing progressively, and not as fast as I wanted it to, but 100,000 is definitely that mark, that button you got in the background. I want at least my version of it, the 100,000. Yeah. I don't know if I can hit 1 million because everything's so convoluted now.
Yeah, but, they've changed a lot of stuff, which is part of the reason I launched so many channels. Most of those were tests to see if I could figure out the algorithm without breaking COMICSTORIAN.
Gotcha.
And that's where we used to launch one every year to just see what we could do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got a lot of projects. Which one right now is the one you just want to get into and really grow?
The Benny Has a Problem, the new ranting channel. It's like a commentary / ranty kind of channel. I am having the most fun with.
Yeah.
Because COMICSTORIAN is great, but I have to talk about comics. And if it's not comic oriented or adjacent, it won't work. MangaStorian, same deal. Like, I love doing the channel, but it has to be a manga or it has to be an anime or people don't care. But with that channel, I came out the gate because one of my buddies was like, because we have conversations, like the videos are based on our conversations we have. Like just us BSing about stupid stuff that happened. And he's like, why aren't you filming these? And I said, because I don't have an extra editor. And he's like, I'll edit them until it makes money. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely take that.
That's where that came from. I was like, I'll take that. I'll do that. And so I'm having the most fun there because I can just, whatever comes up, we just talk about. I don't have to worry about it being comics or podcasting or wait for a co-host or whatever. I literally have like 11 videos already planned out.
Nice. No, I really like that. The one I most recently watched was the one about men going to those boot camps.
Yeah,
doing all that stuff, and I actually took some away from it, and I love the rant videos because they're a lot, like you said, it's an opportunity to just talk about whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind, whatever you see that's kind of grinding your gears, if you will.
Yeah,
and that's when my best friend from Iraq lives with me, and me and him talked about that, and it just blew my mind. It was like, how can somebody go and pay for a weekend to maybe gain some kind of masculinity or maybe lose something or find something that they think they may not have acquired from growing up, whether an absentee father or something of that nature. And so the idea behind that is insanity, but I think it's a good thing. Like you said, though, I think the gimmick is it's a weekend.
Yeah, that's the gimmick. I 100% think that works, but you can't do it in 3 days. You just can't.
Okay.
There's no camaraderie. You're not actually learning anything. You overcame something you signed up for. That's where I think the gimmick is on the whole thing. Like, it's a lot of money for somebody to yell at me for 3 days.
Speaking on that, we both served, which I've always found that super awesome when I found out, because I didn't even find out you served until more recently. And it's just statistically the probability of both of us being infantrymen, being in this YouTube landscape of talking about comic books, there's not a lot of us. You know what I mean?
No, there isn't. I don't go too deep into the Army stories, just because I don't know if you got them, but I was from an era in the Army where wasn't always, people weren't always happy you were in it.
Yeah.
So I am proud of it,
yeah.
but I do know a lot of the stuff I do in Comicstorian is meant for the broad scope audience.
Yeah.
So if it's something that will divide people, I don't really throw my 2 thoughts in. More recently, I kind of been more open about it on Comicstorian with a lot of more of my actual views on things, because I did cross a line of not caring anymore. Yeah. If people don't want to watch, I don't care anymore.
I get that 100%. I definitely, I definitely became more anti-war myself. And so, even talking to my buddies I served with, they're like, you changed a lot over the years. And like, yeah, I just, I adapted different views. Like you said, I enjoyed my time in the military. It was one of the best experiences of my life. If it had not been that, I'd probably be doing a lot of drugs and doing a lot of stupid things. So the military did save me in a lot of ways. I have my own personal gripes with it, but I loved being, one of the best jobs I ever had was being a grunt.
Yeah, I love doing it. I would have stayed at the 20 years if it hadn't been for my injury. So
yeah. How'd you get injured?
They were being stupid because of the infantry. So I fell in a hole at basic and broke one ankle, but they said whatever, push through.
Yeah.
And then I busted the other ankle, and they said whatever, push through. And they deployed me to Iraq and came back, and they're like, your bones are shattered. The shards are in your joints. We have to remove them. Do you want to swap jobs? Because the PA messed up. You can swap jobs. You can get the bonus. You can do everything. So I went to the medical field. They're like, okay, the only thing you can't do is deploy for the next 2 years. You should recover. And within a year, they needed me to sign a waiver so that the whole unit could deploy under the assumption, and in the military, they're like, you won't do anything. You'll be working in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, cool. Lots of money. I'll be in the hospital. I was not in the hospital. They were there. I was the guy that would send to all the fobs with the excuse of you're the only one that can shoot. I'm like, that is not a good excuse. That's not it. So they reshattered both ankles, and then I was pretty much offered medical retirement or a permanent desk job in a hospital. Yeah. And you can see how much I'm already fidgeting. That would not work. So
no, I couldn't do it either myself.
Yeah,
man. So, the military was, so you medically retired from the military. How did you find yourself? Because a lot of people ask me the same thing, and I tell them, like, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I would not have found myself doing a YouTube channel talking about comic books, and I definitely wouldn't have expected it to be paying my bills.
Right.
So, how did you come into it? Because I know for me, it was like the COVID era hit, and that was like an opportunity I saw. Because you were in the early days, so how did you come into this?
I was around right when money started. There wasn't money before when I started. So what happened is my wife, she's from France, and she wanted to get it. She had the green card and was having problems getting a job. So since the military paid me well enough, and it was just the two of us, I was like, you just do something. Do something that might make money. And so she decided to start making YouTube videos, and she was filming me playing video games because I just get very talkative and stupid with video games. And so we turned it into a series where she would just nag me as I'm playing the games. And that was like my entry into YouTube. And so we had already started at this kind of baseline. When I got out of the Army, one of the old school MCNs asked if I would help with management. I did that, used that to promote my channel. And then I wanted to get more money out of it. So I just like, okay, well, I want to find people to talk to about comic books. Doesn't appear to be very many people doing these channels. At the time, it was literally just Eris over at Variant, Comic Book Girl 19, and Comic Book Cast are really the only ones you could find. So I was like, let me just do a couple comic book videos. Because what that'll do is give me something to work on. Because I'm driving my wife crazy trying to make more videos. And so I got out and I started working on that. And then I made Comicstorian. And then I did it right before Endgame hit. And the rest was history. So not Endgame, the original movie, Avengers.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've definitely, you've definitely paved the way. You know what I mean? A lot of us, like I said before, you know, you, Rob, Ernie, were all inspirations for me as I was coming into this and trying to decide how I wanted my channel to look and how I wanted to try to differentiate it from everybody else's channel while making it something that's appeasing a little bit of everybody. You know what I mean? And that's one
That's
reason.
always my philosophy. I mean, all the way back when, like, it was like 2018, 2017 when Comicsgate was getting huge, and they're like, "You got to take a political stance."
Yeah.
And they came to me, they're like, "You got to pick a side." And I'm like, "No." Like, do you not care about the fight? I'm like, I don't, because I just want to read comics.
Yep.
And I just want to cater to everyone who wants to read comics.
Yep.
Which then had them all both fighting me, which was real fun.
Yes.
But that was my stance back then. I was like, I just want to make something where I can just sit and chat with comics with people without people complaining about stupid things. And that's it. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, I have. I've ran into some people not being happy about, you know, they talk about the wokeness in comics and so on and so forth. And most of the time these days, I just delete those comments. I don't even try to argue with people. If it's not too vulgar or something, I might leave it for people to have a discussion. But at the end of the day, like, I just, you know, I can't stay and argue with those people anymore because it's too much.
I hate. I've gotten a little more argumentative with them now lately on the channel with the series I did last year, where I just get on there and rant about things.
Yeah,
but it's more because I'm having fun with it, because it's so easy to poke holes in the argument 99% of the time. Very few times has there been an argument that I'm like, you're right. There's no error in your logic.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you don't like the comic, just don't buy the comic. And if it's going to, if it's going to be successful, it's going to be successful. They'll keep making it. If it's not successful and it's bad writing, they'll stop making it.
That's what it comes down to, because it comes down to money. And that's what I've said since the beginning. Like, you guys keep arguing, but you're still buying the book.
Yes.
Stop buying the book, and they will stop doing that. I mean, Batman had its writer changed because the Tom King run started to dip in numbers. Like,
so going back to the channel starting, like when I first started this channel, I actually thought about just making it, like, calling it the Flash Archives and making it just the Flash, just because I love the Flash. And so that was the hero I wanted to focus on. But I was like, you know, how many people actually are going to watch a channel just about the Flash? Like, it might be successful, but if I branch it out, I can get to a broader audience. And that started, actually didn't even read that many Marvel comics before starting this channel. So, like, for me, the Krakoan era is a great X-Men era for X-Men comics, because I didn't hugely read anything in the 90s or the early 2000s or anything like that. So, you know, what I know of the X-Men and then seeing the Krakoan era, for me, I'm like, this is awesome. This is a huge change. Regardless, you know, some of the stories aren't fantastic, but overall, having these character arcs and these character growths and so on and so forth, seeing all of this is really something unique to see, I think, in the X-Men comics. But yeah, it had me branch out to all of those different comics and really explore. And I found that I actually like a lot more Marvel comics than I ever thought before. You know, I know you said that you really love the Dawn of DC, which I think there's a lot of great things coming out of Dawn of DC. Green Arrow in particular is actually, I'm surprised how good Green Arrow is, and I love that it's focusing on Amanda Waller.
Yeah, I like what they're doing with Green Arrow. What I like about, and what I realized this when COVID hit and DC just went every which way they possibly could with no rhyme or reason to anything happening. And Marvel has kind of done that for a little while, where they just have these little X-Men's here, Spider-Man's here, Avengers related stuff's over here. I really like when things are interconnected, because I like feeling like it's interconnected. That's what I love about Dawn of DC. Even if it's just a half a page mention or whatever, Marvel is kind of doing that again finally. Krakoa was great. My only complaint with Krakoa is they just expected you to read everything. Like
that's the problem.
Fall of X is irritating the hell out of me, because it's like, I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, I was. This whole other book, I didn't know it was a part of it. Like, great. And everyone's like, oh, you're not doing the reading order in the back. I'm like, the reading order has every book. That's not the Fall of X. Like,
the Fall of X is actually what helped me, my channel, a lot, only because I did cover every single issue. I think I did. I put together a video of Fall of X videos from the Hellfire Gala to Fall of the House of X, and it's like a 9-hour video.
Yeah,
it's like stupid long.
The Fall of X videos weren't really performing for me, but I'm still making them, and it's just all going to come out as one big video when it's done. Here's everything I think is important. Enjoy.
Yeah, because there's even stuff I left out. I left out like New Mutant stuff, and I've left out the stuff with Miss Marvel being a mutant just because I'm not a big fan of it. I'm just not interested in it.
Yeah.
So there's
well, she's also there, but she's not. Like,
it's so weird that she's random. Yeah, exactly. She's there, but she's not.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it comes with the Knicks, the New York X-Men. And see, because she's supposed to be leading an X-Men team, so we'll see how that goes.
I technically she ran the champion, so at least she has some history leading.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read probably the first issue of that and see how it is, and then go into it. Just like the Ultimate X-Men right now is it just doesn't feel like an X-Men book, which
I like it, but it doesn't feel like X-Men. Everyone who's like, "There's not X-Men," I don't like. You're right. The art, the story, This honestly feels like a Junji Ito manga. That's what it feels like to me. Like a Junji Ito light. Like not.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Speaking of mangas, because you just did a video on that, on how people are saying manga's outblowing comic books, and it's
everyone loves to argue that all of one piece of misinformation from around the COVID era. They're like, "Oh, do you guys know that Demon Slayer beat out the comic book industry? Do you not know how to look into the article? Like that's not what one wrong article does not make manga the winner."
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong, like manga is making a huge uprise in American culture, much more than when we were growing up. I was born in '90s, so growing up in that time era, it was there, but it wasn't like my son, he's 12 years old. He watches so many different animes, it's ridiculous. And I love
it's so much bigger now.
I love. I mean, even myself, like I was very against watching anime growing up. I was like, I don't want to be the anime kid kind of thing.
I was.
But then my best friend, he is that kid, and so he got me into Sword Art Online. And after that, it was just done. I was like, all right, like, show me what else you got. Then I started watching like Log Horizon, and I'm watching now like Bofuri, Overlord, like any.
I mean, that's what happens to most of them. You just find once you find that one anime that's like your entry anime, you're like, oh, it's not just cartoons for kids. Let me see what this is.
I'm not a big fan on like the animes that do the over sexualization and stuff of that nature. Like for me, sometimes it's just too far, and I won't watch it.
Yeah. I agree too. I mean, I like it. You can tell from like one of my sponsors. But there is a point where I'm like, okay, now I just feel kind of greasy watching this. Like, you went too far.
Yeah. So, I love seeing it though. Like people think, manga's gonna outdo comics, and comics are, gonna disappear. And I never see that happening. Comics are always gonna have a place in popular culture, regardless, even if the numbers dwindle down on how many books they're putting out. But and manga's gonna have its upward. Like you said, the Japanese takeover has been happening since the 80s. Like this is nothing new. We've had Hello Kitty and everything else in between because we've been fascinated with Japanese technology and culture as a whole. So of course it's going to spill over.
Because we're fascinated with them, and we're fascinated with the cultures of other nations in general.
Yeah.
But the other nations are fascinated with us. Like people seem to think like, oh, the Japanese takeover is happening around the world. No, like people like anime and manga, but then when you go to Japan, they're fascinated with Americans and the way we do things and like the lifestyles that we have. It's just, you're always fascinated with what you can't have.
Yeah.
That's different than what I have. That's all it comes down to.
Nope. 100%. Yeah. So yeah, trying to figure all that out. But no, speaking of animes, you said you're watching a whole bunch of them right now.
Yeah. Well, I've always off and on. I'll go through these like periods where like I'm going to catch up on every anime.
Yeah.
And then I catch up to where they're current, and I'm like, all right, we're not going to watch anime for like 6 months.
Yeah. I can't remember which one I'm watching right now. It's a boy's like, he's like a farmer or something like that, but he's like stupid OP. I can't remember what it's called. I'm gonna have to look into it again.
I mean, I've been watching Metallic Rouge, which is from the Full Metal Alchemist guys. It's like their solo project. That was been pretty cool. It's like a bunch of robots and stuff like that. And then I'm watching Solo Leveling because everyone's watching Solo Leveling.
Yeah.
Then of course you got One Piece, you got My Hero. I'm watching those. JoJo. I found a weird one though, which I thought was going to be a crazy over-sexualized one. So I'm like, the concept, it's called, I just started watching it and I kind of ended up binging it. And it was called, I always forget it. Is it Ordinary Guy Becomes a Fantasy Knockout? And it got recommended to me on Amazon because I read, it's like, I'm like, what the hell is Ordinary Guy? And what the story is two 32-year-old businessmen. They make a wish and one of them was drunk and wished that he could be an anime girl with blonde hair. So they get isekai'd away to another universe where one's super powerful and the other guy turned into this little like anime girl. But they blatantly, like, there's almost no fan service because, which is what I assumed it was going to go in the direction of, because they constantly remind you this is a 32-year-old guy stuck in this body. Yeah. And they don't do anything weird with it. Like you would assume they would. And so I ended up, it's just all comedy of the joke of like the fact that he's stuck in this woman's body and his buddy's super powerful. Like, and it's like, that's the kind of stuff that you end up coming across in anime and you're like, I don't even know what I'm watching, but this is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, my buddy, he has watched, I swear he has watched every single anime. Like I'll be in there, I'll walk by one day and he'll be sitting there watching like an anime about baseball or cricket. Like, what are you even watching? Like, what even is this? I was like, why? Like, you've never even watched American baseball in real life,
right?
Let alone the need for an anime.
But you need the drama of the anime version. That's what you need right now. And I actually, because I do the same thing with Hulu. Like, I don't just do it with weird animes. I'll get on Hulu on the weekends and I'll just hit whatever it recommends, and I just see what I don't even know what I'm watching. I just watch it and I go through it. I do that with the anime as well, where you're just kind of like, all right, guy turned into a girl. Let's see what happens. How long before this gets inappropriate?
That's really what it comes down to. I think I actually just finished up Fallout. Did you watch that yet?
Oh, we watched episode 1. We're gonna watch it right after this. My wife's literally waiting for us to finish so we can go watch Fallout.
Yeah, we'll actually probably cut it at 30 minutes because I know you've had a long day and I got some things to do. I actually hit a deer last night, so I've been dealing with rental cars and all that craziness. But yeah, so you watched episode 1 of Fallout? Yep,
just one.
Oh my god, it's so for me, without spoiling it at all. Like for me, because I grew up on Fallout, like
and so did I.
And I was 8 years old in 1998, and I was playing Top View Fallout on a PC, my first ever PC game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've played them my entire childhood. I played the second one. I played Brotherhood. Played the third one. And I think this is probably the best video game adaptation I've seen to date. And
I haven't gone past episode 1, but did you watch Last of Us?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I think the big debate right now is Last of Us followed the narrative very closely.
Yes.
Fallout's doing its own thing because it's just a giant world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was my idea looking into it. Is The Last of Us did fantastic at following the narrative. The great thing about Fallout is that it doesn't necessarily have to follow a narrative. It's a game where you can go and do whatever you want. Right. Now, there is a main storyline, just like all the games, but it does find you having to do like a side quest. It does find you having to do something else. What I loved about it more than anything was the vaults are just on point. Their sets are on point. The costumes are just absolutely phenomenal. The weapons that they use are absolutely fantastic. I think there's 2 complaints that fans actually brought up, and they're really kind of small complaints at that. And I'm not going to bring it up because it'll spoil some things, but but the complaints are minuscule at best. And if anything, they can come back and be like, you know what? This is what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's actually due to one of your chatters said Silent Hill. Silent Hill did a really good job of making it look like Silent Hill. Yeah. But I do think that this came out of the MCU because the MCU approved and the DCEU. Because the problem we had in the early 2000s was basically like they would try to make adaptations, but they were like, well, we got to make it work in the real world. We got to make it work in the real. And that was always the issue. The costumes had to be realistic and the environments had to be realistic.
Yeah.
And what I think the MCU and everything has proven, like, no, just make them good. Make them like like from the comics and make them and follow the story. People are following these stories. Yeah. You can make the product just like that with Fallout. You can make it look like Fallout. You don't have to make it realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. So they did a really good job of doing that. And so it's placed after Fallout 4. It's taking place like 10 years after Fallout 4, I think.
Okay.
And so what Todd had said, the one that's behind all of it, and he's an executive producer on the show itself. He had pretty much said that like the show is going to go just like all the games would. So each decade, if you will, is going to tell a story each, each, whether it be Fallout 4, Fallout 3, each is going to tell a story in that time era and then skip to the next one. So I think like when Fallout 5 eventually does come out in 10 years, we can we can
After
expect
Skyrim or about Elder Scrolls 6.
yeah, we can expect it to come after the TV show and things of that nature, which is going to be really interesting considering the season finale of Fallout is going to make a lot of fans excited. I know I was like, no way. I was like, let's go. Let's do it. Like
Nice.
that's what we're going with. Let's do it. But yeah, so Fallout was a lot of fun. X-Men, I know you haven't got caught up on that either, but
Were
I
you
haven't
watching
either.
the other stream? Is that how you know the answers to my question?
Yeah, I was actually earlier. I was watching it, but yeah, I was watching the
because you're answering questions that I literally like answered like an hour and a half ago. Like,
yeah, that's I don't want you to have to repeat yourself.
but yeah, I forgot X-Men 97 was a thing. I'm not as big of an X-Men fan as the other guys are, so they're all watching it, and I was like, let me go watch random anime, and then like I'll get through it, and be like, shit, I'm supposed to watch X-Men.
Yeah, I actually just got caught up on Invincible, and I haven't been watching X-Men. I think I'm like 3 episodes behind on X-Men right now.
Yeah.
So, but obviously everyone's talking about it, and I'm like, all right, I got to go watch it now.
Yeah, that's what reminded me. Like, okay, I know the spoiler. Let's see how we get there.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, man, like
I haven't actually watched Invincible though. I liked season 1, but I was like, it's the issue I have because I read manga, I watch anime, and like if I watch the anime, I can't read the manga, or if I read the manga, I can't watch the anime because they're the same. And it's the issue I have with Invincible. Like, I've read Invincible, so I know what's going to happen, and I don't really care about the minor changes they make,
Yeah, so for me, I didn't read Invincible, so going into the show, I'm completely blind. I have no idea what's going to happen or what's going to come. I think I'm eventually going to get into the comics. I think the big thing for Invincible, though, for the broader audience, is the shock and awe value of it. Just like The Boys. We all love The Boys because of the shock and awe, the superheroes turn bad, all of that craziness. And I think that's really what they honed in on. Like, they saw The Boys and they're like, all right, this might be a good time to put out something like Invincible.
Right. Hey, it's interesting with The Boys too, because The Boys is going way off book at this point.
Yes,
and
tremendously.
And every season, it feels like they're trying to up the ante. Yeah. I'm worried it's going to turn into The Walking Dead, where they just go so far over the line to try and get you to watch that they finally cross it, and everyone's like, I'm out. I'm done.
I actually, when the new Walking Dead with Daryl going to France came out, I forced myself to watch the last seasons of The Walking Dead. And I was like, man, I was half the time I was fast forwarding through it and just like kind of getting the cliff notes of it. But I did watch The Walking Dead, The Last of Us or whatever with Rick and Michonne.
Okay.
That was phenomenal. That was like just like a great love letter to the fans, closing it out. Like, if you can not watch any of the new seasons and go into that and watch it and be like, all right, this is a great way to close out Rick's story.
Because I fell off, I think, 1 season after the death of Glenn.
Yeah.
Like, Glenn died and everyone freaked out and stopped watching. I was like, I'll give it 1 more season. But the show itself went downhill.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like Glenn's death. You could tell that they were just trying to spin their wheels as much as they could at that point.
And then they had like 7 different spin-offs and none of them did fantastic. I think
I didn't hear really about any. I know the Daryl one.
Yeah.
Because I remember when that first came out, my wife was excited because she's from France. And she's like, oh, it's in France. Should we watch it? And I'm like, no. And then I saw the ads for the Michonne and Rick one.
Yeah. And then there was a more recent one that was that one Maggie, Glenn's girlfriend, and a villain that came on later on that was the dude with the bat. What's his name?
Oh, Negan.
Yeah. When Negan, and so it's them going to New York City. And that's the spinoff for that one. But they had before that, they had a crap ton of other like Fear the Walking Dead, and that had like 6 seasons. Like,
I watched season 1, and I was like, it's a cool premise. But then again, it was like, why is it still going?
Yeah, they did too much with it. I think they're closing it out with these last seasons. They just did. Be done with it. Call it a day. End the story. Go home because it's over with.
Your time is over. You milked this as far as you can milk this.
Yeah. Did you watch Halo?
So I the first season I dropped midway. My buddy had me come back and finish it. I did. I started season 2 and I saw everyone talk about how good it is. I want to watch it, but I'm also not in a rush because of how bad season 1 was. So
yeah.
But I feel like Halo is like the prime example of what not to do with a franchise.
Yeah.
Because you have this big universe, so go tell stories in the universe. But they're like, no, we're going to tell stories about Master Chief, but it's not going to be any story. We're going to make a new one up. And you're like,
Yep.
You just made trash. What are you talking about?
And that's why I think Fallout has been so successful. I think overall, like, I don't really care about critic ratings or anything like that, but audience ratings have it at like 85, 90%, across the board. So it's, when it comes to making sure that they stuck to it, like Todd was there to make sure that they stuck to it. And they did such a phenomenal job of doing it. But yeah,
I mean, that's why Last of Us was so good, though. They stuck to it. They had someone there making sure they stuck to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you watched it, but the One Piece show on Netflix did the same thing.
Yes.
They had Oda, the writer, on set, making sure they did not mess it up. And like now you hear rumors of what Netflix wanted to do with it, and you're like, you would have ruined it. Like they wanted to do like a romance between Nami and Zoro, and you're like, that's not One Piece. What are you trying to do?
Yeah, they always wanted to add their own little twist onto it, and sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it just doesn't. Especially with you got diehard fans and things of that nature. But yeah. So yeah, we're hitting that 30-minute mark. I'll let you go.
Oh, it's up to you. I'm fine right now, man.
All right, we'll go a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I know you've been busy, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Oh, you're fine. Don't worry. I would if I didn't think I could chat, I would have just been like, hey man, you want to reschedule again?
So when it comes to Dawn of DC, we talked about Green Arrow a little bit, just so we can switch the subject on to back to comics.
I have a lot of interest. I can go in any direction you need.
I'm the same way. I mean, you guys, you see the Funko Pops all over the place. I got Indiana Jones over there.
All right, so what is your opinion on Funko Pops? Because they were big, they were huge. Now they're kind of going down.
Ned, it's over with. It's done at this point. So I was collecting during COVID and all that stuff. I had pops that were worth $600, $700. Most of those I've sold off at this point.
Yeah.
But some of them are worth value. Like this Captain America right here. It's a die-cast Captain America, so it's fully metal Captain America in there, and then it's painted over.
Yeah, I saw them doing those.
That one's worth like $150.
Nice.
But
the only ones I got left at this point, I got signed ones, like the voice actor for this or the voice actor for that. I got them all signed and good to go. Yeah, I have a Green Ranger and a White Ranger signed by Jason David Frank.
Nice.
That now will just forever be in the collection. Like,
yes, that is fantastic. That's a grab because I could easily go for like 1,000+ right now.
Yeah, I had I had to do a show with him when he was going to be Bloodshot in that weird like web series.
Yeah,
and they had me come out to talk to him and a bunch of other people. And while I was there, I was like, "Hey man, if I go grab 2 Funko Pops, can you just sign them for me real quick? You can make them out to me. I don't care. I'm not going to resell them. I just 2 of Green and a White Ranger by Jason David Frank signed. I just want these in my collection."
Hell yeah, that's the way to go. But yeah, no, Funko Pops, they just died out, man. They tried to doing too many exclusives, like, oh, there's 3,000 of this, but then also release some more or release 12 different variations of the same one, like like Aang, like Avatar Aang. They have like 30 of him in different poses. And it's just
it's the same thing with Goku. Because I did collect the Dragon Ball ones for a little while. I was like, here's 80 Gokus doing different Goku things.
Yep. And so they just got too convoluted. They made too many. Their exclusives weren't that exclusive anymore. And it just made them kind of go downhill. And so no one's really collecting like that anymore, which is good if you wanted to get the pops just to have them.
My theory is that they knew what they were doing and they wanted to make as much cash as they could because they knew they were going to be a fad. They knew at some point it was going to fall into a niche collector's market.
Yep. And that's exactly what happened. They blew the hell up and it was 2022, 2023. You were just seeing astronomical, like there was the Willy Wonka Funko Pop that sold for $100,000.
Yeah.
Probably couldn't get that for that price right now. You probably get it a lot cheaper now. But it's just, it was just showing you had Post Malone doing it and everybody else was into it, and so I think even though the app you were just doing a video for, they were promoting Funko like just crazy. So they were just out there everywhere. And now it's just kind of just in a slump. It's like, people aren't really collecting them anymore, even though like I got this little Starfield robot right here. Absolutely fantastic. Like I like them still, but I definitely don't collect like I used to.
What do you think is going to be the next big collector boom?
Oh,
because I don't got like the stuff I got behind me is things that I just enjoy now.
Yeah.
Like random anime statues. I got some video game statues. Like I don't have any like Funko or anything back there anymore. So
It really, honestly, it seems like cards are really making a comeback. Like
Cards.
Magic cards, Pokemon cards.
Did they ever really fall out of favor though?
I
Like
think
I
I
never
think they
really
had a
considered those out.
significant I think they had a good time era, like in 2010 to 2020,
Yeah.
where no one was really doing much with it. And it wasn't until more recently famous people started playing it and doing it, and it became much more popular. And especially, what was that rapper that had that card, or was it Jake Paul? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, Logan Paul. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Pokemon
Logan
card.
Paul. Yeah, the Pokemon card. And so people like him are really invigorating it, and people are having campaigns all over the place, like they tried doing with Dungeons and Dragons with the streaming stuff, which I actually wanted to talk to you about that, because I love playing Dungeons and Dragons. I can never find anybody to play with. Never. That's
Oh,
consistently playing all the
that's the
time.
hardest part. You can always
Yeah.
get people to show up for like the first month.
Yes.
And then they stop. Part of the reason we did the Dungeons and Dragons channel on the side was, one, it was the fad.
Yeah.
But I knew right off the bat when we were making it, and I told the guys, I'm like, this isn't going to blow up. They're like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons are huge. I'm like, guys, I'm telling you right now, look at the biggest channels. It's big. It's a big deal because it has big voice actors or big actors or people. Like, it's not just random people playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So I knew that right off the bat, but we started doing it because it was a guaranteed reason that we would meet up and actually play Dungeons and Dragons, because we had the same issue. We would meet up like every Friday or Wednesday or whatever day we were doing it, and we'd all try to play. And like, this guy can't make this week. This guy can't make this week. And then it just starts falling apart slowly.
Yeah. And it's a lot. There's a little more disconnect trying to do it on camera too, through the computer. Like, it's not as impactful or as enjoyable as in person, and especially when you got your friends around, maybe drinking a couple beers, having some fun. Like, I know back
when we did our stuff, like we don't go too hardcore on the rules, because that's more what it is for us. Just we're all hanging out, having a beer, just enjoying ourselves. You know, we're just adults playing with action figures. That's really what it boils down to.
Yes. Yeah, because that's what I was dungeon master, so then that's exactly what I would do. I'd just be like kind of loose with the rules, like, you know what, just roll the dice and see what happens. I don't really care. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, no, so I got off topic again, but so
I didn't help. I brought up Funkos.
yeah. So your favorite comic from DC Comics with the dawn of DC.
Are we counting? I actually like what Chip Zdarsky's doing. I do think it could. It's all going to come down to how he sticks the landing on it.
Yes.
if he fails the ending of this whole thing, it's going to be garbage. The whole thing's going to be garbage, because he's got what at the end. By the time we get into the event in the summer, which will close out where we are, there will be 25 issues of all of this, like all of the Zurad plot, which is going to be interesting. So if we don't count Batman, because I don't think it's technically Dawn of DC. I think they just started flagging it as Dawn of DC.
Yeah.
I'd say Superman. I haven't enjoyed Superman in so long, because I was really enjoying Tomasi's Superman, and then Bendis came in and just ruined all of that. Like, I did not touch Superman until Williamson took over.
Yeah, no, Williamson has been absolutely killing it with Superman. I have been surprised how much I have enjoying that. Like, House of Brainiac looks to be like an absolutely phenomenal storyline.
The first issue, I was like, what is going on? And I want to know.
Yeah,
like, there's a lot of events that come out and you're like, all right, we'll see what happens.
Did you read the backup in the Green Lantern with Guy Gardner?
Yes, where Guy Gardner's chasing Lobo, but not Lobo.
Yes. And I love those tie-ins, you know, because, you know, I feel like Lobo's going to have, I don't read solicitations too often, so I kind of just get it as it comes to me. And so I don't know if Lobo's going to play a part, but it really feels like Lobo's going to have a heavy part in the House of Brainiac and whatever's about to go down.
Well, yeah, he's got to at this point.
Yeah.
A whole Caesarian army showed up. Like, what do you do with that? The next issue, I think, is next week. We got Superman. They went action. We're going to Superman. I think Superman's going to be him going to find Lobo.
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that we're going to have some fun interaction with Lobo, because Lobo hasn't been around in a while. It's been a
I think
minute.
Since Crush.
Yeah,
they had a series, like, when was that?
It was a minute ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago. Crush was cool. I actually liked Crush. Crush was a cool design. And I did like the idea of her father, because the way they pitched it was Lobo's going to have some family, a father-daughter time. And I remember picking it up like, you're going to ruin Crush now. You barely made Crush work, but you're going to ruin Crush, and you're going to ruin Lobo. And I'm reading the issue, and the whole thing was Lobo had tricked her to take his place in the prison.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like a father-daughter thing. It was like Lobo being like, you know how many kids I got? You're nothing.
Yeah. So that looks promising. And then I think one of my favorite lines so far has been everything following Jon Stewart. You know, I've really enjoyed Jon Stewart's Green Lantern because he essentially touched the source, became what they call ascended. Did you read that storyline? Yeah.
I know that was the one I bitched and moaned about.
Gotcha.
Look, I hear the story ended well, but
Yeah.
my complaint is, and I stand by this statement. I do stand by my claim on this. How bankrupt for ideas do you have to be if you're given the Green Lanterns and your first thought is take away the rings? And I was like, what? I see where you went with it. It worked, but you have like 8 issues there where you're just like, what if they got no rings? I'm like, come on.
Yeah, and you got them. You got them on the ground like cowboys.
Yeah, like, you have the
like,
Green Lanterns. You're not telling me a Jonah Hex story or a Batman Out of Time story.
Turn them into space rangers.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
No, I get that. And a lot of people complained about that.
The writer blocked me on everything. Sometimes I wonder if people see me on podcasts because I assume they don't.
Yeah,
and then that's how I find out.
Yeah, actually, I had a writer block me. He recently wrote for Savage Avengers. He didn't like something I had to say and blocked me.
Who's
too.
the writer for Savage Avengers?
He recently it was David Pepos.
Okay, I haven't read his part.
I
read Savage when it had Conan on it. When the name Savage made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't pick up. Don't get me wrong, I love his indie stuff. He's got this comic called The OZ, which is like taking the Wizard of Oz and reimagining it for the 21st century. And she's an Iraq veteran who gets thrown into Oz, and it's a war-torn Oz that has different factions all over the place. Like it's crazy story. It's a lot of fun. But his Marvel work, I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah. Sometimes when writers make crazy indie stories, their Marvel work's a little too safe.
Yes. And that's exactly what it is. His Marvel work is very, very safe. Speaking of Marvel, I know you don't read too much Marvel, but what do you
I read all the Marvel. Everyone assumes they don't. Yeah. It's just DC does better on the channel. So I just do more DC.
Gotcha. So what of the Marvel comics right now that you're reading do you like the most?
Wolverine. Sabretooth War is insane. I'm loving what they're doing at that. I also like that Fall of X happened, and Wolverine conveniently, the issue before was like, I'm out of here. I'm leaving Echo.
He's like, I gotta go, guys.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that was convenient. That way you're not really affected by the Fall of X.
Yeah, at all. And then he can just come back in at the House of Fall of X or whatever. Yeah, and just like, I'm back, guys. I'm here to fight. No,
Ghost Rider's been really good too. Ghost Rider was a lot of fun. I think that it's fully wrapped up now. What I was enjoying about it, but it was fun.
You know, that's one I got to get caught up on just because the X-Men titles took up so much of my time that I had to drop like 1 or 2 here and there, and Ghost Rider ended up being one of the ones that I didn't keep on going with.
Did you enjoy Immortal Hulk way back in the day?
Yes, I did.
Okay, read the new Hulk.
Okay,
because they're basically
I am a little behind on that too.
Well, they're skipping Donny Cates' spaceship Hulk shit. They're just now we're back to immortal shit. We're doing creepy monster stuff. Enjoy.
Yeah, the spaceship Hulk stuff was crazy. It was insane.
It was so hard to like rationalize it too. Like, what are you doing?
And then Thor turning into Hulk and then beating the crap out of Hulk.
Okay, that was fun. That was fun though.
No, it was tons of fun. It was just a ridiculous story for a Hulk story. Like the whole premise of it as a whole. But no,
talking to Odin in his mind and like, what is going on?
No, I'm surprised. Wolverine's a little bit slow for me. Like, I feel like it just didn't need to be 10 issues.
No, they definitely didn't.
They were like, you know what? We want to get to issue 50, and so this is how we're gonna do it. I think if they had put this into maybe like 6 issues, they could have made an absolutely fantastic story. I did see the solicitations on where Wolverine's going with this whole new suit that he's going to be getting, and it's going to be stupid. It's going to be ridiculous, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
I like it and I don't at the same time because they're obviously stretching it out so that a lot of the family can get room. Like the last issue was Laura getting her revenge.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, I get what you're going for, but I am reading Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why don't they just make Wolverine and Family as another book? Like, I feel like Wolverine could hold 2 books. Why are we only doing 1?
Yeah. So how are you feeling about the Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Universe?
I'm liking it so far.
Yeah.
But the issue I have with it is, one, and I think this is everyone's major complaint, it's not the Ultimate Universe. They're just taking the name because they know it's going to sell.
Yes.
I like it now that we're at Spider-Man, Black Panther, and X-Men. I did not like all the crazy maker setup I just thought it was way too convoluted, way too much going on for a brand new universe start. We needed like 5 or 6 issues that didn't do anything except explain the universe. Then he's like, now I can start the Ultimate Universe. And I'm like, it's a little convoluted, man.
Yeah, because even now reading the Ultimate Universe, like who's on the council, the like ruling council,
Yeah,
it's like it's still hard to remember who exactly that. Like it's not well established enough to be able to reference them or talk about them or do anything really with them. I will say my favorite, but I'm biased on this. I always love like a middle-aged Peter Parker.
yeah, oh yeah.
Like
Spider-Man's amazing.
Yep.
Black Panther, I think it's too safe. Black Panther
Yes.
I like, but it's so far it's kind of following a Black Panther plot. And then X-Men I really like because it is different, but it's not X-Men.
No.
It's just like they should have just named it Other Mutants.
Yeah. Someone asked to talk about House and Powers of X. I didn't read too much.
All the way to now?
But yeah, that's like I was gonna say, like that's way too much to read.
That's a 6-year gap of X-Men, right?
If you're talking about the current stuff that's going on, like Powers of the House of X, then we could definitely talk about that stuff.
I'm so confused.
And the end of Krakoa coming. Because
I'm so confused by the dude. Okay, so right now we have X-Men. X-Men is the X-Men fighting things, and
Yes.
it feels disjointed because they're just kind of going from one fight to the next.
Yes.
They're not really doing. And then we got one of them. It's either Powers or the House of Powers or the Rise. It's all about Xavier traveling through time and trying to kill Moira, like the Hitler conundrum, but then changing his mind and doing other things.
Last minute, like, oh, actually, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. And then we have the other one, which is looking at alternate futures.
Yes.
But they're important, so don't ignore this. And I'm
because
just like,
they're hunting down the rogue Moira.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what is even happening?
Yeah, and then the surface of it all is that we have the Dominion that's hanging over their head that's plotting to kill everybody with AI taking over and so on and so forth.
And then over in Iron Man, he's just at a war with Orcus directly at this point.
Yes, yes, he became an X-title pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, he married Emma. I was like, oh, by the way,
yeah.
I'm just gonna marry Emma.
Yeah, which I mean, he could do worse.
Yeah, I wonder how long it's gonna stick.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they do stick because they're an interesting dynamic together. They could be pretty brutal, but no, as a whole, the story, like you said, like this is all convoluted. Like you were supposed to be bringing the end of Krakoa, and while some storylines have been brought to an end, you guys have created a whole bunch of different storylines where we're dealing with 10 different timelines over here, and then Xavier's over here doing this thing, and then you have some books like Wolverine that are still falling under Fall of X, and so it's confusing
the worst part
people.
About Wolverine is everyone is separated, everyone's in different battles, and then you go to Wolverine and they're like, oh no, but we're still in Krakoa.
Yes,
we're kind of over here. This is like a cell of us over here. We're just doing this.
Yep. Yeah, and so I constantly get people like, what is going on? Like, how is Wolverine here? Like, isn't he supposed to be going and doing his Sabretooth war?
Yeah.
And then it's trying to break it down and explain that to people. Like, unless you're reading every single title, you're not going to be able to keep up with what's going on. People ask me all the time, where should I start? Like 6 years ago. You should have started 6 years ago.
That's the worst part. And like, it's funny because we get into these arguments of manga versus comics. And I always bring up the argument of like, because manga, you go by volume 1, you buy it up to volume 10, and you just read the manga. And everyone's like, no, comics aren't that convoluted. I'm like, look at Fall of X. This is my job, and I don't know what to read. Like,
yeah, they've been hyping up the end of the Krakoan era. I don't think it's the end. They've been saying the Krakoan era is going away. I think the Krakoan era is ending, and we're going to see like the Araco era have its rise. But we're also going to have these isolated comics that feel more rooted in 90s comics.
Oh, they want to bring it back. For some reason, Disney is fixated on X-Men 97. We're going to go back to what made it work with the animated series, and it's like, okay, so we're going to bring everything back.
Yeah, and then because that's my thing, I've been trying to figure out, because everybody's like, they're going back to the mansion. Does this mean we're doing a reset? Like, are they just the Krakoan era never happened? Like, how is it going to play out? And from what we go ahead.
So the weird part is that the mansion is like defunct right now.
Yeah.
And the Danger Room is like active over there and having like a sad
Yeah.
story where she just doesn't want everything. Like when Deadpool and Wolverine went back there, I'm like, now I feel bad for the Danger Room. Like,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah, they treated her like crap, and
Yeah.
she was mad about it.
You all left me, and I had to make my own mutants.
No, and that's another storyline that they just left there.
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to do with that? So there's so many things, but like with Miss Marvel leading the next storyline, I think that's a good telltale sign that the Krakoan era isn't necessarily like the ending of it isn't a reset per se, as just everybody's moving on to different things. Because out of the Krakoan era, we got some phenomenal characters from the Araco side. You know, what was that? Lutuka. We had Tarn the Uncaring.
Honestly, the Araco guys, I just kind of was like, whatever. I didn't pay that much to it.
And I get that, but there is a possibility for them, like John Ironfire. If you haven't seen him, he's, you know, side by side with Storm. Like his whole Sinister timeline is absolutely amazing, coming out looking like Odin and shit. But at the end of the day, like there's characters I think that they can reuse and bring back into the folds if they decide to do it that way.
Well, I think they're going to leave Mars. Just leave Mars over there. Something we can use. We're just going to get rid of the island that's having sex with the other island.
Yeah. And I think really it's just, they, like you said, it's a big bulk that you have to read. And I think they want to break that off and say, you know what, let's break all of this off. All these storylines come to an end. Here's 6 titles starting with brand new stories.
I want them to be less. I want 3 titles. Give me 3 to start with, and then that lets me bleed into everything.
The X-Men titles really have taken over most of what I've been reading, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of stuff out there. I actually want to get the Spider-Man, the Symbiote Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah, I haven't read that yet. I got it.
It doesn't look, the first issue's not bad. Like I enjoyed seeing the first issue and seeing how it plays out and how they're getting into it all. It seems interesting, and I have the second issue. I haven't read it yet though.
Okay. That only came out this week though, so you're not too far behind.
Yeah, I got to get caught up on it. There's so many titles like we were talking about, like I hit that kind of wall. And so I haven't been reading as many comics as I usually do. And so I got a whole backlog of comics right now that I got to get caught up on.
Well, it turns into a thing, and this is what people don't understand. Like, I love comics and I read comics, but when this is your job, you can't just sit and read a comic anymore.
No.
Every time I read a comic, my brain is thinking about how do I make content out of it? How do I make content out of it? So
okay, I'm going to talk about this part. I'm going to leave this part out. Yep. Every single time, like I was just looking at like the Carnage line. I just read that last night, and that's exactly what I was doing, breaking down like how am I going to do it? Because now they're doing the necrosis, symbiosis necrosis. That's what the whole event they have going on with Venom and Carnage right now.
Yeah.
And that's just a whole thing.
I'm a little behind on that because Venom you have to read as a trade at this point.
Yes.
Al Ewing's Venom just got so what the hell's happening?
Yeah.
I loved it, but I got to read it in bulk. I cannot read it individually. I forget what happens too quickly.
No, and that is fair because there is a lot that happens and it happens very quickly. You're dealing with time travel and everything else in between. Getting in one go is really the best option you can go with. What do you think of Jonathan Hickman's Gods? Jonathan Hickman is getting so much work right now. You know, I haven't read Gods. Gods it's okay. It's okay. I think that's the best way to put it. It feels very like John Constantine.
Okay.
On a more cosmic scale and not necessarily a magical scale.
Yeah.
And then there was like, I don't know, have you been reading any like indie stuff like Geiger or anything like that?
Not too much recently, comic wise. A lot more of the manga out there and the left field kind of stuff. I'm following a few series like, Radiant Black and, more other publisher stuff like the Duke, Cobra Commander, Transformers, giant crossover thing they got going on right now.
Yes.
Reading that. But I wouldn't say like truly indie.
Yeah.
Like it's still in the superhero box.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like I call like Geiger. I think Geiger's published by, IDW or something like that. It's not like super indie, you know what I mean? Yeah. I try to support Kickstarters as much as I can, but those can get pricey. I recently, I think last year, I paid like $800 to have my likeness drawn into one of their comics.
Oh, nice.
Just to help them out, but also to have that as like a little momentum. I'm going to give it to my kids. Be like, hey, look, your dad's in a comic kind of thing.
I
just
made
that's
it.
fun. Yeah. So yeah, but no, like I've been really trying to. That's the only thing I hate about the channel is that I want to get more into indie comics, and I feel more of an obligation to make sure I'm always getting Marvel and DC comics out there.
I mean, that's an issue. There's two things that don't happen much on the channel. And that's independent or other publishers. They don't happen much because no one watches them.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is I can't talk much about the industry itself.
Yeah.
Like if I do anything very industry direct, people just don't care. They don't want to watch it.
No, no,
So,
and that's exactly. I have some of my the Geiger one I was saying. I think it's a Jeff Johns Gary Frank book, and even with those names attached to it, nobody watches the videos. I think I get maybe like a 1,000 views off of the video, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I like it.
Yeah, and well, that's what I do at this point. At this point, I do a lot of things just for me.
Yeah,
like I'm past abiding by the algorithm. I just do for me, and then I enjoy all the other stuff, and that's where I'm at. But
yeah,
I've been doing it. I have such a backlog at this point
Yes.
that I can get away with whatever I want at this point.
Yeah. Once I get to that 100,000 mark, I'll feel a little more comfortable going down the path of doing more of what I want and not dealing with the algorithm so much. But yeah, so yeah, we're hitting that 55 mark. I'll let you go, and then
okay. Yeah, now I probably should go watch the
yeah.
the
No, man, get on that. It is hands down some of the best TV I've seen when it comes to video game adaptation. Definitely, if not the best, it's definitely in the top 3.
Okay. Well, when I finish it, we'll do another episode to talk about it if you want.
Hell yeah, I'm down, dude.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man. We'll call that a day. Is there anything you want to promote before you head off?
I have too many projects. If you go to ComicStorian, all the channels will link down below.
All right. Do that. All right, everybody. Later. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.